Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul.
And we are SP Film Viewers.
So, here we have it, our first Halloween-themed episode of the month for this year.
We do I love Halloween for candy, or should be candy, I'm not American, and pumpkins, even though I don't like pumpkin lattes because I don't like coffee, but not really for the scary movies, I would say. I'm not a big fan of the scary films, which autumn is my favourite season, but not when Paul's like, oh, we're going to be putting on scary films. I do get a little bit apprehensive.
I'd also like to note this is the first episode where we've got some intro music as well, courtesy of Arnav, I hope I'm saying that right, from 909 Music. He kindly let us use his music for the opening track, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Paul, for searching long and hard trying to find that right.
Something that blends in and a nice little musical sting that'll work for his little short intro piece. So.
Yeah.
But now we get on to the main topic of our first horror film we're going to be discussing this month, and that is A Quiet Place.
I picked this one thinking, because Paul's actually let me somewhat semi-pick by the titles, not with much background info.
Too much, yeah.
Really, unless I've asked the question.
What's this?
Entail.
Yeah.
So I thought, A Quiet Place, that doesn't sound scary. That doesn't sound frightening. What's wrong with sitting somewhere nice in a quiet place? So I thought, oh, well, this one will be hopefully a little bit easing me into maybe what I've got in store.
I'd definitely say it's, from the list of what we've got planned out, is probably definitely the most easiest one to get into, and it's quite a nice tight hour and a half.
Yeah, and I think...
But generally that's how horror should be, really, in fairness. It shouldn't be going on for too long, because you've got to be quite fast-paced with how you...
To get the scares in.
Yeah.
You kind of gave me a brief overview of somewhat what this kind of entailed. And I thought it quite linked quite closely to what's happened this year. Yeah, okay, it's a bit different, but it's somewhat kind of similar to where your normal life is being hindered, and the way that you live, you're having to adapt and change to certain scenarios. And I think that was quite key to what we kind of saw in this one. I think this one's a lot more extreme in the sense of this thing actually coming after you if you make a sound. However, I feel like if that was the case with coronavirus, people might behave a little bit more.
Yeah, if the actual a physical thing would.
Yeah, I think because you can't actually see it, I think that's the problem. Whereas if this thing was running at you, literally, I think people might think about it. So it's quite interesting, obviously, because it's quite quiet. Obviously, they can't talk.
As the title suggests, yeah.
The sign language. I did say to you, I would have been interested to see another family or something like that who didn't have a deaf daughter, to how they would have adapted, because it's like, well, quite handy for them that the new sign language.
Which based on her, yeah.
Like, what if you didn't know sign language? What other way could you communicate? Would it be that you'd have to be writing
stuff? But that would drag, wouldn't it? If you had someone stand there with a chalkboard or something going, scribbling down, like, come on, this is dragging.
Or would you make your own sign language because you wouldn't know? It's not like you can learn it. Well, I guess you could find a YouTube video and put it on silent or something. Just hope that it.
Well, if there's any signal.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the type of world where the state that the world is in, this sort of disarray, that there's going to be Wi-Fi and stuff going on.
Well,
It's quite
it is in the, we saw, didn't we, that it was like in present, actually it was like future dated, so to speak.
yeah.
So weirdly, the actual year that the boy,
The little boy that ends up getting killed off is only 4 years old because he was born in 2016, and it said to 2020 when he's at the grave.
which
It's just kind of like, well, gosh, that's how apt is that in a sense.
everyone knew that 2020 was going to be a bit of a year. I feel like that was kind of known. So I did think that was a bit scary and a bit spooky. That freaked me out more than the actual thing of coming out and attacking me. Then was the fact that that kind of tied in.
Yeah. And you also said as well that it's kind of, oh, this is kind of like Bird Box, isn't it? Except it's like the opposite way around. Instead of seeing something and getting killed off, it's a sound-based
Which
monster.
one was before? Was this A Quiet Place before Bird Box?
I think they might have been the same year, in fact, weirdly enough.
Do you think people knew that something like this was going to happen? Like, had a...
We normally have those Mayan calendars saying the world's going to end in something, but nothing like specifically like this.
That's true. It kind of jumps you in as well to the film. So a little bit of frustration was I really like background knowledge. So like I want to know where this thing came from, why. It just kind of bumps you
Yeah, it's
back
like
onto
day
day
47 or something.
80 or
Yeah,
89 or something
yeah.
ridiculous, and it's like, well, wait a minute, how did these things appear? What are they? Are they alien, or is it like a weird spider? Because it has quite a few legs and it crawls, but then it's got a weird head that has like multiple ears, like that's like it's censoring
Yeah.
when it's
Until,
listening,
yeah.
and it kind of spears you when it hears a noise, like with its legs. That's how it like kind of kills you. And it's like, well, that's no creature I've seen. So is it man-made?
Really?
Is it like an alien?
Yeah, it's not really established, I'll say that, for the film. It's no like, even like when you see like stuff on the walls and like where they've got their cabin and everything, you know, where they're living. There's nothing on it. It's kind of just saying like newspaper headlines saying unkillable things like what's their weakness and all that kind of stuff. But there's nothing on there saying this is a da 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 and
Like
they came from the depths of the earth or something or anything weird like that. It
doesn't even have a name, does it? Nobody
No.
even says. So like we've got further with coronavirus because at least we have actually a name for it. Whereas this thing is like they don't even know what it is, and it's like, well, but they get to a point of where like their daily life is so extreme to a point of there is no supermarkets. Because obviously, you know, the beep of the gun would drive that thing insane, wouldn't it? Beep,
Yeah, there's not going to be people.
Everyone would be like, doom, 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 all dead in space of. I shouldn't laugh, but that's how my brain was working, thinking, yeah.
Yeah, you can think that everything is you do walking down the street with high heels, you'd be dead.
Yes.
You'd be closing the door too loudly, don't you know, that kind of
Like
stuff.
they couldn't close the doors, could they? They didn't.
No.
That's how things got in.
Yeah.
It's like I even thought, well, what if you cough? Or
Exactly.
have any other bodily function that you need to
Yeah, do. Drinking gassy cans of pop or anything.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do? So I know for me personally, this would be quite hard for me. I'm quite clumsy. I do drop things a lot.
Not as much as you think, maybe, but I wouldn't say you were that super clumsy in the situation. Be like, whoa, you know. Like...
I feel like I would be like the weak link though, like between me and you. I can't even hear you coming into the room sometimes.
Yeah, I'm.
You'd be fine. You would literally like. You sound like you walk on a cloud or something ridiculous because I can never hear you come in.
Obviously, if you like stub your toe or something, that's always like really hard to mask. But I suppose you just have to try and be mindful of things like that. Like
you would. I think it's a case of even like I walk like a baby elephant, so I don't know how I'd have to be like. And I notice as well, even in the new house, I'm able to find where the creaky floorboards are. Like if I was able to get like a chocolate bar every time I found a creaky floorboard.
Well, the fridge door creak where it's sitting behind the door. That creaks. So
we'd be dead.
So yeah.
So obviously there's a principle of this. They've kind of been really stripped back to basics. They're kind of, I think, harvesting their own food. They're obviously going to the river to get fish for like the protein. They're trying to get any odd scrap bits to help their daughter with the hearing aid, as well as setting up like a base where they can see things coming at them. They've also got this light thing where they kind of can change it if it's like a danger to, we're okay, we'll have a white light, but if it's really bad, it's red. And I'm just thinking, where have you got all this stuff from? This is so unrealistic. There's no supermarkets available. Everything was empty on the shelves. Is Amazon still working? Because I don't know what's going on right now, because how they're getting all their stuff is beyond me. Like the amount of lights, and they were all the same. Like, come on. At least pretend, like, get some Christmas lights up there or something to look a bit authentic. Because it was, like, not mega realistic.
So at this point they're in this sort of like farmstead place that they've got to set up now. This is like sort of obviously moved on a bit since the death of the little boy that the daughter feels responsible for.
Well, it's her fault.
Because she gave him, or like just gave him the toy that he was playing with that had the batteries that made the sound. If it was me, I would say, right, here's a toy, let's get going, rather than put it on the table with the batteries and the little boy just going, batteries to make the sound things, or just chuck them. Well, I'll put them in your pocket, out of the way, and then you have to deal with them, and then maybe dispose of them somewhere. But so then, obviously, now another factor is which kind of sort of annoyed me, but I guess it can't be helped if you in the moment thing like some people do. The mother and the father, who are actually a real married couple, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
I do like Emily Blunt. Normally when I watch anything she's in, it never disappoints me. And as well, she's British, so I do think she's a good actress and really pretty.
And she's now pregnant. So I was like, well, I think that if that's going to happen, there's going to be a point where you're going to be screaming in pain because you're giving birth, and also you've got a screaming baby. When it comes
it's
out,
not practical, is it, really?
No, not really.
But like I said to you, well, it's one of those things where you can't really control it, I don't think now. It's just, I don't think they planned it.
If they did, I don't know why.
I would not have done that. I don't even want one now with everything that's going on in the world. Never mind when can't have a crying baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, that birth scene is a bit traumatic, isn't it? Really, that's when it kind of gets to the nitty gritty part, really, because all based around this one family, and you kind of have this relationship where the daughter thinks the dad resents her because of what happened to the little boy. But all he does is actually truly definitely dote over and love her.
Yeah, because he wants to help her out with the hearing aid issue so that she can actually hear her environment, which is, and she seems so ungrateful.
Yes,
really.
She's
despite
my
the fact,
favourite character. She's really horrid to say that she is deaf, and it's like, well, I should really feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's
weird because normally I would be like, oh well, she's, there'd be some sympathy, but there isn't because she's so stubborn.
Yeah, and no offense to her, but she just got a pretty hard face anyway, so that doesn't help the fact.
And then she's scrunching her face up for half the film.
Yeah. So it's just like, no, I can't really feel too much sympathy for her in a sense of, oh gosh, she's acting and now everyone else is acting around kind of thing. But
especially with the circumstances that are going on, it's like you can't be overreacting like that. You need to all stick together. You can't just be having your teen tantrums. You need to grow up a lot quicker in these environments. So back to the poor mother. A daughter had decided to run away at this point, I feel. Somewhat. She was kind of visiting the little boy's grave.
Yeah.
But if she'd have gone back or not, I'm not sure. But she saw the red lights on and panicked and ran back home to help. But really, if she hadn't snuck out in the first place, she'd have been there to help her mother. Obviously, the dad and the little boy were out training the little boy up. And the reason why the girl looked like she was going to run away was because she wanted to go with the dad and learn what her dad was doing. However, her dad said it wasn't safe because obviously she can't hear. So like if this thing was creeping up on her, she would have no clue. Nor if she stood on like a twig or something would she have realised.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's a bit of a threat, really. So she didn't see it that way. Of course not. And funnily enough, the little boy didn't want to go, did he?
No, he's quite terrified of the whole aspect of it. Which I don't blame him for, because I'd be pretty scared in that situation, dealing with these creatures that I don't know where they're going to appear just by any sort of slight sound going on.
Yeah, it's quite daunting, really, especially because he's only so young. I think it's, but obviously they're like the saying, you need to learn so that they can defend themselves, and in case of anything inevitable happening to any of the parents, that they need to learn this, don't they? So it's
Mm-hmm.
understandable to protect the children, but at the same time, they need to educate them to how to survive with these circumstances. We do get to a point of where you said, and again, that you were a little bit like, well, how does this work? The water running.
Yeah, I guess when I first saw it, I'm thinking, well, that's a bit strange because that's a lot of sound. But then, guessing if it's too much noise going on all the time for them, the creatures, then it might be a bit too disorienting for them, and they'll be like, oh, I can't figure out where I'm supposed to be going, kind of thing, or it's just too loud in the
Yeah.
sense, even though it's not high pitched, like it comes into play with the whole hearing aid and being up too loud, which for most people can be annoying anyway. But that kind of kind of a bit loud.
I think
But
that's the case with why they're not always around where the water is, or like you're saying with the high pitchedness. I think it's anything that's like a constant noise. I think that then kind of drives them insane. If it's just like one little noise and then
yeah,
they can go for it
yeah,
and kill whatever. Like, I don't even know why they're killing. Are they eating them or are they just killing? What's their
probably
stuff?
both. I
Yeah,
think
you don't really see that, do you?
no, it's just normally there's somebody that's going to kill.
Yeah, and then that's it. It's done.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, if you were eating them, then I'd kind of let you off a little bit because at least yeah, okay, it's the way of nature. You need to eat to
yeah,
survive, which I could understand, but you kind of don't even get that concept. It did make me jump a little bit, but the only reason it did that was because the film was so quiet. When it kind of built up suspense, they did their striking out kind of thing.
yeah.
It was so loud in comparison to how quiet the rest of the film was.
Yeah, it'd been interesting to see this in the cinema actually. For normally, because obviously they've got the big speakers
Mm,
blasting out your sound and stuff. You can hear it just walking down the corridors. For other films, sometimes in this, because it's been almost always fairly quiet anyway, other than
mm,
normal background noise.
yeah.
That then you probably would be like "Ugh," jumping out your seat all the time for the loud musical stings do come.
Mm, yeah, I think definitely been interesting to see how eerie it felt in the cinema as well, because like it's such a big space, and it's so I think it would feel a little bit more like if the noises were coming, that the creature was going to come after you. Wasn't mega scared though. I've been more
Yeah, I
scared.
knew that you wouldn't
I
really find this that
slept
terrifying. Yeah,
soundly. It didn't hinder me in any way or
yeah. We
form
know
like
there's
that.
no real creatures that go around
Yeah,
killing people based on sound. So, what did you make of the designs themselves, though?
I don't really know what they were going for. I think they had a couple of legs, so I didn't really like that because I don't really like spiders. So they reminded me more of a spider,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah,
With
sort of
a
the
yeah,
scuttling around
I
in a
I didn't
sense. Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay.
You probably liked the design. It looked more like a
Uh,
spear, kind of
yeah,
foot.
I want to know about the whole almost like splitting your head open, kind of
Hmm.
for to hear everything. But I guess that
Was
makes
that
the
its
most.
ears, or did he have like sensory
Yeah,
skin, or?
or but the sides did at least, and then the rest of it all. I'm guessing maybe that's just
Mm.
open more openings. I don't know, but it would look a bit daft if it just had big, big human ears on the side of it. So I guess it's kind of makes it a bit more alien and creepy to have these like weird
It did look more alien-like
yeah,
than
anything yeah
anything else. To be fair, that's kind of what I thought. In the end, it was. It was like something had come into
from
planet
space
Earth
yeah
and kind of trying to take over.
yeah
So you kind of come to the end where it all kind of gets kicking off, because obviously the mother's giving birth in the bathtub at this point. There's actually a creature, I don't really know what you can call it, in the house, and there's ones lurking around in the field bits.
Yeah.
Obviously the dads and the boy have come back, so they're setting off some fireworks, so it kind of covers your qualm there, doesn't it, a little bit, because she's being very, very quiet and holding in the pain of trying to give birth.
Yeah, up until the point when setting off what the dad calls rockets, which are just like fireworks, just to obviously make a more distracting sound, and then she's like, ah! Like,
yeah,
just like a masking that. But
worked quite
what
well.
if, I mean, I don't know, if one's still been lingering around or something in fairly close proximity, could have still potentially got her, but
It could have done, but I'm wondering if it depends on how loud the sound is, like to what can overtake that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That quite worked in quite well, because obviously I was thinking, no way is this woman not going to scream all the way through labour.
Yeah.
She's going to have to at least let one little kind of pain out, otherwise she's not going to be human herself.
She has the baby.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's quite a funny scene, that is, that bit where the dad comes up to the bathtub. There's all blood in the bath, so he thinks obviously that she's dead.
Yeah.
At this point, but actually she's locked herself in this shower cubicle, and this bit made me jump because I didn't expect it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was yet again because it was so quiet. She did the kind of hand boom and onto the glass, and then scraped down with this bloody hand, and that it was just the glass noise that scared me, and it was just that kind of dramatizing, making you think, well, it looks like, is she dead, or is she just kind of like reaching
That's
out
what
for help?
someone would do if they were like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But it's like, why do that?
So I did think that did make me chuckle after I jumped a little.
There was another part that made you laugh as well, wasn't it? When the boy and the girl were in like this corn stash, and she jumps in and she's kind of like drowning in.
And they're trying to pass this metal door to one another to try and get out of the corn because they're drowned in like corn quicksand or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I did say to you, didn't I? It's like, I'd rather die drowned in by corn than I would this thing coming at me and stabbing me. But you did point out that actually the corn death
would be a lot slower and more painful if you
less likely to drown by corn than get stabbed to death by this spider thing.
Yeah, but at least it'd probably go in an instant, really, if you get killed by one thing.
I guess. So yeah, that was quite dramatic, the way that they were in the corn, like, yeah, again, so that did make me chuckle, and I didn't think really a horror film, or whatever this is classed as for a scary movie, Halloween, that I'd be laughing through it. Obviously there is a sad moment where the dad puts his children first and sort of sacrifices himself, which, to be honest, I know it sounds really horrible and people might not like me for saying this, but I think really the dad shouldn't have sacrificed himself. We should have just got that girl who was being moody all the way through, so bloody ungrateful. Really, if anybody needed to go, she was the one who was the least deserving, I think. The dad was more practical. It's like one of those weakest link things. It's like, well, who's going to actually benefit the team later on down the line?
Well, as we do discover, it is her equipment.
But who made it?
Dad, yeah.
So now that you don't have Dad because you killed him off because you were so ungrateful for the fact that he's actually created this thing that kills all the monsters.
Well, not kills, sort of disrupts them, weakens them to be able to be shot.
So it is Dad really that saves the household. Yeah, okay, she figured it out, but she could have figured it out a hell of a lot sooner when she turned it off in the car. Then the dad wouldn't have died. So, sorry. I know I'm nitpicking at that, but it is a case of I just really don't like her. And I feel horrible saying that because, she's obviously got no hearing, but she's not one of those people, when somebody actually has a physical disability.
Yeah.
They seem to be so much more grateful for life, and they let's say you've got no leg, and then there's people going dancing and jumping off cliffs and doing ridiculous things like mountain climbing. It's like, well, she's one of those that just sits there and feels sorry for herself.
Yeah.
So, obviously, like we said, the hearing aid saves the day because of the high frequency, and then she puts it on a speaker and wamps up the amp, and it's really loud, and then disorientates this thing, and then the mum kills it.
Yeah.
I do feel sorry for the mum the most out of all of this because her husband's died.
Yeah.
Now she's responsible looking after 2 children, well, a moody teen, and then a little boy, and then a baby.
Which is making noise. I feel sorry for the baby because it's like coming to this world, right? You go in this little handmade coffin thing that on an oxygen thing so you can breathe, just so that you can just be quiet. What a way to come into the world.
But then I guess, is it better the devil you know? Because it's like, well, this child will be raised in an environment where he won't know any different. Is it worse to be like, oh, well, I wish I could, like the little boy that died, wanting to play with toys and wanting that noise, and whereas this one's never going to know. So
I guess
he's not going to know any. He's not in the wiser, is he? So you can't miss what you don't know.
No. You said at the end, didn't you, about like, oh, well, that's a bit of a cop out, didn't you?
Yeah, because you see all these
other
things
coming
on the telly, that they've hooked up very nicely. Like, where did you get all them screens from? And it kind of then ends with the scene where the daughter and the mother,
like, looking at each other type thing. Like, I'm going to put the amplifier on full whack. You load the shotgun and then cut to black.
Yeah, so you assume they survive, but you don't actually see the action of it, and it's like, well,
no, at this point, no, there was going to be a sequel coming out. Well, it hasn't come out yet. It was supposed to come out this year,
in 2020.
But that's been put on hold as well. So, like most things,
don't think I'd be rushing to go and buy a ticket to the cinema, not just because of COVID, but just in general for this film.
No, but off topic slightly about the fact that news about the Cineworlds being closed.
I know.
So I don't know if we'll soon not have any cinemas at all, the way things are going, but
I hope that's not the case. I really do. But I know Cineworld was a bit more of an affordable cinema, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It did have a lot more bums on seats, not very comfy seats, but
yeah, more for the every average Joe viewer, really, I guess.
Not like a showcase experience with the leather chairs. But still, I used to go to Cineworld.
Yeah,
hell of a lot.
All the time when I was younger. Yeah.
Yeah. So really sad to see that kind of be going under because of COVID. Also, there's not as many films being produced.
No, they just keep getting pushed back, or they're coming just straight to video services, which isn't always too bad, but then you kind of look at them going, the prices of them are quite steep. But I know they've got to make the money back somehow. This is the catch-22 really with the whole thing. Also,
it's a case of, I don't want to be watching a movie for 2 hours, and then obviously in the cinema, watching your trailers if there is any, and wearing a mask for that length of time, unless you can eat something, and then you might get away with not having to wear one. But it's just the thought of being in that environment, I think, for that length of time with other people that you don't know, it's quite sad. But I do love the cinemas. That's what was our first date, wasn't it? So I don't really want them kind of to vanish.
No.
So apart from the cop-out ending and the fact that then you kind of pointed out that there was going to be another one, I think I did get a little bit annoyed, like, oh, they've run out of budget or something for the movie now to kind of finish the final fight scene. That's, like, it's like cutting a marble halfway through the end battle. That's how it felt for me. It was like, are we really not going to see this, like, come to light?
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. So, with all that being said then, what's going to be your scoring for this film?
It's definitely got a perk because it's got Emily Blunt in it, and that's always an actress that I like to see. But then you have to get demarked a little bit for that snotty teenage girl that's a pain in the bottom all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she saves the day, she's just a pain. I think for me as well, the concept of not knowing where this thing came from, if they killed them all in the end and then went back to normal life in society, does kind of leave me a lot with wanting a hell of a lot more from this.
Yeah.
I'm quite glad we did pick it because I wasn't that scared. I don't think it was that bad. If all of these are going to be like that, I'll be fine. But I think as well, it was a physical thing that I knew didn't exist. So I was okay to sleep at night, whereas if it's a ghost or...
I think a ghost isn't a physical thing that exists, but...
No,
yeah.
to me it does, or a spirit or something like that, then I am definitely not going to be sleeping.
Right, yeah.
So I think overall it's not a bad film, and I do recommend people to go see it, but this has been very, very nice. Probably a 7 or a 6.5, I was going to say.
More generous than me then, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Which are you going for? You're going 6.5 or 7?
I'd go 6.5, I think, just because of the basics of it's being quite a creative film with the fact that it's silence. So
yeah,
I've not seen that kind of play out before really in a film that way.
Okay. Despite the fact that it is kind of like, that's kind of a clever idea, but I didn't really latch onto it the first time around, so I was kind of hoping that me watching it again with you as like another perspective of it would make it seem like any different.
I made it worse, didn't I?
No, you're about the same. Kind of like you kind of said about like you pointed out about the pregnancy thing being, well, like those things kind of do happen, and it's kind of thing you can't plan those things, so it's kind of just like that's just how it is, and things like that. But
they could have not had sex, and
that's what kind of annoying. It's like, well, yeah, you knew if you know what comes from doing that potentially, and just other things like that. Is thinking that you're gonna make noises because there's no avoiding that kind of stuff. You're gonna just slip up, but anyway.
It's kind of planning your own death in a little way, isn't it?
So, really, it's going to be 6, really, overall. It's kind of just more the concept of it is good and solid. And the 2 main leads work well because obviously they're husband and wife. So
I think they're the strong point of the film, to be fair. I think the rest of the kids are quite
even
weak.
the monster designs themselves don't look that cracking as a concept. So it's...
And they don't look real enough to... I think they're quite basic.
There's some about them that just don't sit well with me, really, is a thing. I might have liked it if it was a lot younger, but as a more mature
elderly man,
it doesn't really grab me as it probably would as a more a teenage version of me. I'd have probably liked it a lot more. So
thank you so much for listening to our thoughts. Of course, go and watch it. It is a really interesting watch just for the silent aspect of it. I've never watched a film so silent.
Not even a silent film.
No, because you still have that little bit of noise, don't you? Yeah.
And pianos normally,
Yeah.
Obviously not poo your pants scary or anything like that, but
no, definitely not.
It's an okay watch, I'd say.
Yeah, it's not a bad watch to watch, but definitely one of the nicest. And I probably will be wanting to score it higher later on once we've gone further down the Halloween month that we're going through.
Yeah. You know what we're going to be reviewing next, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
So it's going to be, we're going to be talking about 2 of them, in fact, 2 different versions. The Daniel Radcliffe Woman in Black, firstly, that you haven't seen, and also the one that neither of us have seen, which is the TV adaptation version. It's come out recently, and I've got it on Blu-ray, so I'm intrigued to see what it sort of differentiates between that sort of almost low budget of a television production, and then a more stylized-ish.
So now I thought when you said there was 2, that one was like the one with Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, was a remake or something like that. That's what I kind of got in my head.
I suppose it maybe it was. I don't know. It was just an adaptation of
Right.
the whole thing, because I know there's like a theatre production
Yes.
of it as well. So
I do get to see him naked in this, don't I? I think I do. I'm sure I get to see a bottom.
I can't remember that part of the story, to be honest.
I might be wrong. I might be getting something else mixed up.
Maybe.
But I know there was a bit of a controversial.
Maybe that's wishful thinking.
I know he
Do
did
you?
something where he was naked,
Okay.
and it kind of it's like Harry Potter naked, and it was quite shunned upon because obviously he was stepping away from that role and
Yeah.
dipping his feet into different kind of things.
Yeah.
However, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and this is the first time I will have seen Daniel Radcliffe in another film, I believe.
Really?
Because
Hmm.
he went down a bit of a film area where I wouldn't really normally go. So I kind of did say to you, I'd be interested to see how his performance is.
Okay.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. So it was a good one then for you. So thank you everybody for having listened to this, and of course you can listen to our previous episodes over on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you might get your podcasts from. And of course we're on the social media platforms of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter under the handle SP Film Viewers.
We also encourage, well I do, to start doing Halloween month.
As most people probably do for anything to do with movies, so yeah.
Especially as well, even I've got my decorations out now for Halloween. I feel like it's kind of started to be like a Christmas thing. You start Christmas in December, don't you?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Why just have a day of it when you could make a whole month of it?
Exactly, yeah.
And especially with everything going on, I think everybody needs a bit of cheering up.
Yeah.
So, I hope you all enjoy that, and I hope you enjoy what we bring.
See you next time, yeah. So, speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Take care now.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.